They say the walls of Buckingham Palace have seen it all, but even those ancient walls seemed to tighten when the latest storm began brewing. One that didn't come from outside tabloids, but from deep inside the royal veins. The trigger, a man named Tom Parker Bowles, the Queen Consort's son, who somehow managed to turn royal privilege into personal disaster. No one could have guessed that a casual favor from a mother to her struggling son would spiral into one of the most humiliating scandals of the decade. It started quietly, like all royal messes do. Camilla had the corridors of Buckingham Palace were never silent for long, but lately the whispers had turned sharper. Servants exchanged glances instead of words, and advisors walked on eggshells, aware that something was brewing behind those gilded doors. Tom Parker Bowles, Camilla's son, had become the quiet pulse of that unrest. He wasn't a royal by blood, but his mother's position gave him access to places he'd once only seen in tabloids. For him, this was redemption, a final chance to erase the shadow of failure that had followed him through London's culinary world. Tom moved through the palace with an air of self-assurance, greeting guards by name, offering smiles that never reached his eye. He understood how perception worked. Act confident long enough and people begin to believe you belong. But beneath the charm, desperation simmered. Creditors still called. His failed restaurant projects had left unpaid debts that no royal title could erase. And now, in the heart of the monarchy, he found something more valuable than fame: information. The royal family's inner circle was a goldmine. Names, meetings, private events. Everything was logged, scheduled, and discussed. To most, those were mundane details. To Tom, they were assets waiting to be converted into cash. A leaked guest list here, a private itinerary there, small pieces that together painted a picture outsiders would pay handsomely to see. And someone out there was already paying attention. One evening, under the dim glow of a London bar, Tom met with a journalist he'd known for years. Their conversation began harmlessly, a few jokes about the old restaurant days, but as the drinks flowed, the talk drifted to palace events, to the names of businessmen and dignitaries invited to upcoming charity galas. The journalist slid a business card across the table. "There are people who'd pay for that kind of insight," he said. Tom hesitated for only a moment before pocketing the card. That was the night he stepped over the line. The leaks started small, a blurred photo, a single name from a guest list. But as the money came in, so did the greed. Each payment wiped away a little of Tom's guilt. Soon he was meeting middlemen at discreet cafes and sending encrypted messages through burner phones. The network grew fast, reaching foreign businessmen hungry for royal gossip. Meanwhile, Prince William began to notice strange coincidences. Private details from internal meetings appeared in the press within days. The timing was too precise, too deliberate. Someone inside was feeding the leaks. William's instincts sharpened. Years of discipline had taught him to trust his gut, and right now, it screamed one name: Tom. He didn't act immediately. William was patient, methodical. He assigned a few trusted aides to keep quiet tabs on Tom's movements, not official surveillance, just quiet observation. Reports trickled in slowly. Tom attending unlisted meetings, Tom leaving the palace at odd hours, Tom spotted with a journalist known for exploiting insider stories. The puzzle pieces were falling into place, and they didn't paint a pretty picture. Camilla, meanwhile, was oblivious. Or perhaps she chose to be. She believed bringing her son into royal work would mend his image, not destroy it. She told herself he was simply misunderstood, that the press would twist anything he did. But deep down, there was fear. A mother's intuition that her son's ambition might one day cost them both everything. As weeks passed, William's quiet investigation grew stronger. Financial logs, security camera footage, and whispers from palace staff all pointed in one direction. Tom's accounts were suddenly flush with deposits from untraceable sources. Hidden beneath layers of shell companies, the trail was murky but undeniable. William knew he couldn't let this rot spread further. The heir to the throne prepared his move carefully. Evidence was gathered, verified, and compiled into a single damning dossier. He didn't share it with anyone. Not yet. He wanted the truth to surface at the perfect moment, under the full weight of public eyes. Because when the truth came out, there'd be no room for denial, no time for royal spin, and in the grand chessboard of power, William was about to make a move that would shake the monarchy to its core. The grand ballroom glittered beneath chandeliers as cameras clicked and guests in tailored suits sipped champagne. The Taste of Britain charity gala was meant to be a celebration of culture and class, but beneath the sparkle, tension brewed like a storm waiting for thunder. Tom Parker Bowles stood at the podium, his speech rehearsed, his smile polished. Every word he spoke about unity and heritage carried the weight of someone desperate to prove they still belonged. The applause was polite, even warm, but across the room, William's steady gaze never left him. Charles sat near the front, shoulders heavy, hands clasped. He wasn't blind to the growing distance between his wife and his son. Every interaction between Camilla and William now felt like a battlefield, subtle jabs masked as civility. For the king, tonight was supposed to ease the strain, a brief moment where the family could present harmony to the world. But fate, and William's evidence, had other plans. When Tom stepped down from the podium, the applause faded into murmurs. William rose, his expression unreadable, and walked toward the stage. Guests quieted instinctively. The air grew thick, heavy with expectation. "Before we continue," William said, his voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass, "there's a matter that demands clarity." Tom froze mid-step, the color draining from his face. Cameras turned. Reporters straightened. Camilla's smile faltered. "Mr. Parker Bowles," William continued, eyes locked on him, "can you explain who you've been sharing royal information with?" A gasp rippled through the hall. The audience wasn't sure if this was some strange royal banter or something far graver. Tom laughed nervously. "I think you've misunderstood." William raised his hand. A technician pressed a button. The sound system crackled. Then, through the speakers, came Tom's own voice. Low, hurried, unmistakable. "You'll have it before the weekend. Guaranteed, no one else knows." The room erupted in whispers. Some guests stared in disbelief, others lifted their phones, recording history in real time. Camilla shot up from her seat, trembling with anger. "William, that's enough," she snapped. "This isn't the place for—" "It's exactly the place," William said quietly, "because the people deserve to know who's selling access to the crown." Charles's voice boomed from his chair. "Stop this. All of you." But it was too late. The damage was done. The clip played again, followed by another, Tom discussing VIP lists and payment arrangements. By the time the audio ended, the silence was suffocating. Tom's lips trembled. He tried to speak, but no words came. Camilla's fury was volcanic. She turned to Charles, eyes blazing. "You will not destroy my son over this nonsense." But the king's expression told her everything. He'd already made up his mind. Within hours, the palace released a statement. "Mr. Tom Parker Bowles will no longer participate in royal activities. All privileges revoked, effective immediately." The next morning, the palace courtyard was swarmed by reporters. Cameras flashed as Tom walked out in a dark suit, carrying a small suitcase. His silence was louder than any confession. He climbed into a waiting car, face blank, surrounded by the echo of shutter clicks. Inside the palace, Camilla sat alone in her study, blinds drawn. The newspapers screamed headlines she could hardly bear to read. "King's stepson exposed in royal leak scandal." Camilla's influence crumbles. She'd spent decades climbing to the throne beside Charles, but in one miscalculated gamble, her son's ambition had cracked the foundation beneath her feet. William, meanwhile, stood beside his father on the palace balcony later that afternoon, waving to cheering crowds. The cameras captured the perfect image, the future king beside the reigning monarch, united and composed. Yet behind that calm, William's mind was steel. He hadn't done this for pride, he'd done it to protect what the monarchy stood for. Camilla didn't join them on the balcony. Her figure lingered in the shadows behind the glass, watching the two men framed by sunlight and flags. For her, it was the cruelest sight imaginable, not just because her son was gone, but because power had shifted forever, and the man who once smiled politely at her dinners now stood taller than anyone in the kingdom.